Hello, this is Don Simpson, and now I'm going to show you how I take a piece of artwork like this that I've hand drawn on paper, and I'm going to color it in Photoshop and show you a little bit of my technique. So this is a drawing of Ms. Megaton Man, one of my characters, and this is on Strathmore 400 drawing paper, which is stuff that I've been using since the late 1970s when I started. I was in high school and I started inking, doing pen and ink and brush and ink. And it's a pretty nice cream colored paper. It's good for drawing. Here is a pencil drawing on Strathmore drawing paper 400. And you can see it's graphite pencil. I start with light blue pencil and go over it with graphite. And then I ink it in Indian ink. And I use a bottle of ink like this, plastic bottle. And this is a little inkwell that I made out of ceramic down at Waynesburg when I was teaching there. And that just keeps it from tipping over. I've messed up a lot of carpeting over the years with Indian ink. I use, in the old days, I used brushes. These are sable brushes. This is a brand new Raphael. And what is the number? 8408. Wayne Foucher recommended this to me. This is a Utrecht. This is a number 3 and a number 2. I don't know if you can see those points. Number 3 is a little bit bigger, holds a little bit more ink. And you dip those in the bottle and you ink over your pencil drawing. I've created some videos to show that on YouTube. All of my old comics were inked with brushes like this. Strathmore used to make a nice Kolinsky brush, which had a plain handle, wooden handle. Winsor & Newton used to make a good brush. I haven't used brushes much. I mostly am using a Hunt 102 Crow Quill. It's a dip pen, and I'm able to blend the tools. And you can see on this sheet, I've done some lettering with rapidograph, and I even used a little bit of a pigment marker to outline the word balloons. So I use a variety of things. The main thing is to have a permanent ink, a nice black that you can scan, and so I've scanned it in. And if I can change my window here, what you're seeing now is the ink drawing that's been scanned it in at 600 DPI, and it's full color right now. And we're going to turn it into this, which is the actual color is superimposed over the ink drawing. And in between, we're going to do this, which is a intermediate step. This would be the step that you would do if you were coloring for a printed comic book, but I've been posting my drawings lately, and I like this kind of hand-colored look, as you can see. And I can zoom in a little bit. See if we can zoom in a little bit. Nice thing about the superimposition, you can see some of the pencil lines underneath the coloring. It gives it a nice handmade look to it. But I still have, as you saw, I didn't really color the original drawing. I colored a digital simulacrum of it. So I start with the scan, and it looks like this in Photoshop. It's in full color. You could scan it directly into bitmap, but I found that this works really well to scan it in full color, and then I go under my image and I convert it into grayscale. And let me zoom in a little bit on the image again. And you can see Clarissa, my main character, is fighting the coronavirus in pen and ink. My little caricature, my little allegorical. And I based this face off of Méliès's Man on the Moon from his silent movie. So I'm going to take the full color image and I'm going to go under Mode and I'm going to convert it into grayscale. So you'll see the color disappear. So now it's a grayscale image. And then I'm going to go back under Mode again and I'm going to convert it into bitmap. And this will eliminate all the grays. And this 50% threshold, that means anything that is darker than 50% black will turn black, and anything that is lighter will turn white. And the resolution is 600 dpi. And I click it like that, and now we have perfectly black and white. But I can't color this, so I have to now go backwards and make it a grayscale again, which I just did, and then I go back again and turn it into red-green. Excuse me, red-green-blue. And now I've got a full color file. This is red-green-blue RGB. And by the way, you can go under your preferences, and there is a preference here for, I think, for color space. I can't remember exactly where that. I'm gonna skip that part for right now. But the point is that you can create a CMYK file. The print uses cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Those are the old full color printing press colors. I have my setting so that I'm working in RGB, which is a slightly smaller file size, but it's in the CMYK color space, so that when it converts, it will be the same colors as we see on the screen. That's a little technical aspect to it. But I've got my tools over here, and the tools that I use are layers and channels. And you can see right now it's in RGB. And I use my magic wand over here, which I'm going to use. The setting is really important on the magic wand. You don't want, excuse me, you don't want anti-alias selected. So you want to make sure that's off. Anti-aliasing is basically blending. You don't want to blend any of the colors. You want to keep everything either black or white or a color, and you'll see that in a moment. Let's zoom in on Clarissa's elbow for the moment, and I'm going to use my magic wand, and you can see it's the little wand icon. And now I've got these little crawling ants. So that means all the white area is selected, and I want to unclick contiguous. Contiguous means right next to each other. That will only select pixels in that area. I'm using the brush now, and the brush tool here I'm using the pencil version of the brush tool. So what happened was, when I had the contiguous box clicked on in the magic wand, that only selected pixels that were touching one another. And you might want to do that. Otherwise, you can click on with the using the magic wand tool with contiguous clicked off. Now I've clicked on a white area. That selects all the white throughout the picture. And if I back up now, and I'm going to hit Command or Control H, that's going to turn off those little crawling ants. And another tool I like to use is the paint bucket, which is There's a keyboard shortcut, that's the G. One thing, I've been using Photoshop since about version 2.0. Now you have a little paint bucket icon, and I'm going to paint bucket. And you can see that I clicked on her glove, but her glove is not completely outlined. In the fingertip there, it looks like there's a little bit of an opening, and so all of the related pixels got colored, so I'm going to undo that. Instead, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to use my pencil tool, and I'm going to close that little fingertip. Now I'm going to use the paint bucket, and you can see that I've filled in her glove, but there are still some little white areas because it's a analog drawing. I'm going to go in and color those. You can see those little white areas get colored in and up here. So now I've colored her elbow and her glove, and I'm going to show you basically how I start a drawing like this. I'm going to deselect everything. Oops. I'm going to click on a white area. I'm going to click now, so I've selected all of the white area in the image. I'm going to use my blue from my palette, and this is what I call blue, Megaton Man blue, and I'm going to use my pencil. Now here's the pencil tool up here in the toolbox. You have the brush version and you have the pencil version. I use the pencil version, and I just use it as normal for right now. There's a bunch of other commands that you could use, and I'm going to use a fairly large size brush, and I'm just going to color over the character here. All of her figure is going to be, that hasn't been colored already, is going to turn blue. And so you can see now, and I'll turn off those crawling ants. So now I've colored in the figure rather sloppily. Now I'm going to use my eyedropper tool, and you can see over here, I'm going to click on the white area. I use point simple. That means it's just going to pick up a pixel of white, and that's going to be my active color over here. And I'm going to paint bucket in outside her figure. So that's going to eliminate all of the blue that was outside of her figure. I'm going to click up here. Now, there's a few little blue areas that were left. I'm going to use the brush, and I'm just going to color over those. I like the cursor. You can see there's a big circle here that shows me how big of an area that I'm covering. And I'm going to use, there we go. I'm going to use my eyedropper to select on the blue, or I can go back to my color palette, and I'm going to color in her cape. Now, I call this the color form stage. So I've colored in her figure. It looks like one of those old-fashioned color form plastic little toys. Now I'm going to deselect, and I want to show you, because I'm going to zoom in on her button, and you can see all the pixels are still 100% black, or they're 100% blue. There's no blending between the two. That's what you want to avoid. So turn off your anti-aliasing when you're selecting. That's very important, and that will keep the colors pure. And then when you select them again, you can change them as many times as you need to. Here's my yellow button. It's kind of a cadmium yellow. Now, in the old days, we used to use Solvinyl paints, which took forever to dry. And on the old kitchen sink Megaton Man comic books. This is so much faster. As you can see, I can click these areas and turn off the select. And I've got some colors over here that are prearranged. This is her skin tone. And you can see most of these areas are fairly well outlined, and I can just paint bucket into them. Here up in her hair, I have to use the pencil to color in because there's some openings up here, and then I can color in. And I can do her goggles. And then again, I use the yellow. Sorry. There we go. And I make her eyes. Now all of these colors are still select. Oops, sorry. See, that's what happens when you deselect. I'm going to select the yellow area. And I'm just using the mouse, although I do have a pressure sensitive pen. I'm using a Microsoft Surface tablet, but I don't use the pressure sensitive pen too often. I just find that I can do a lot with the mouse, and it's very precisely controlled. So I've colored in her skin tone. I may as well go ahead and color her hair, which is a kind of burgundy color. You can see that's coloring in nicely. Oops. I have a little section up there. And I have a darker cape color for the shadowy area, so we got that. Now, all I have to do is her trunks. And I paint bucketed that. And her torso, this is the letter M, kind of a V-neck, and these are the little spaces, the negative spaces of the letter M on her torso. And I'll do her boots, which are yellow. Oops. And I'm being a little sloppy here. I'm going to white out those little blue areas that developed. So I've colored a figure pretty quickly, and you can see it's all a question of selecting and you can change those colors anytime you want to. If you've prepared your outline drawing with enclosed spaces, it's a lot easier to do the paint bucket. Just fill things in, and I go on like this. I can just fill colors pretty quickly. It's a lot easier than having to enclose those spaces. And let me give you an example of that, because here on the coronavirus, if I were to just paint bucket into this area, it kind of looks like the outlines go all the way around, but there are little gaps. And so if I click on it, it colors the whole background, which I don't want. So I have to undo that. There's also a thing you can do with converting your actual line work. You don't have to just color the white spaces. You can also color the black. So here I've selected the black, and I'm going to create, you just use her hair color here, and I'm going to turn it into a kind of a maroon outline. I could do that with these little specks of color out here. And then I deselect, and then I can select the white area, and I'm going to make, fill that in like so. And I'm going to trim that a little bit. So you can take your line work and you can color it into all kinds of different things. So again, this is the final version of the flat, or I'm well on my way. Let me show you the actual file that I created. So this is what I did yesterday when I scanned this in. I colored the logo and the lettering, and there was a special procedure which I did. I took these two files, and here again is the original. I have to open the original file again. Let me save this first. Command save. I'll save this as test color. And I'll just, if I go back to my original file, here again is the original drawing. Here's the final flat color. Here again is the what we did just now. So here's the original drawing. Here's the flat coloring. And I won't show you how to do this today. It's a special secret. But here's the two of them blended together. And you can see those on my Facebook page. I will probably post it to my Ms. Megaton Man blog. And again, that's where we started from. So thank you. Hope you picked up a few tips. It's an amazing technology, and that's how I do it. I don't need to color, although sometimes I paint on my originals if people are asking for a special sketch or something like that. But usually what I'm posting these days is starts out as this original drawing, and then it's a hybrid form. I'm using the old school methods of drawing, which I'm comfortable with, and then I'm using Photoshop to spruce it up, fix my mistakes, and to publish it. Thank you very much, and if I can figure out how to turn this off, we'll call it a day.